It's a good it's a good hot take.
Yeah, no, that's a very hot take. Hot take. I think that's boiling water level.
Hello and welcome to the pond. This is JonnyPoncho coming to you again with another TTRPG design video. Today, we'll be taking a break from our normal audiobook with design scheduled program in order to address a topic that came up in connection with the What is Tabletop YouTube channel's discussion on hot takes. Highly recommend the What is Tabletop crew. Frank and Charles do great work over there, putting out videos on design discussion. And of course, your own little frog here, JonnyPoncho, decided that he would try his hand at engaging with the community a little different from what he normally does. And what did you know? His hot take was swatted like a fly out the sky. So today we are going to be taking a look at that hot take, some of the pushback that was given by the What is Tabletop crew, and see where we can sparse the difference. Before we get into that, we have to, of course, talk about why we are talking about this. And I think to get a good picture, we have to see the introduction to their consideration of this hot take.
I'm not too surprised by that.
JonnyPoncho says, most TTRPGs do not have a fun dice mechanic. Simple, yes. Streamlined, definitely. Fun, rarely.
Ooh, what do you consider a fun dice mechanic then?
Well, they gave an example.
Oh, yes. Yeah, give the example.
Narrative isn't necessary to make spades, blackjack, or solitaire fun. The random mechanic is the game. If you sat a group of non-TTRPG aware friends and said, let's play, I say a number, and you roll a die, the game, they'd never let you choose the game again. In the many TTRPGs, in the moment, context carries the resolution system. I think we can do better.
Okay, this is definitely a hot take because they're wrong, and I don't agree with them.
Now, I don't want controversy in the pond. The pond is a peaceful place where game designers of all opinions and thoughts can give their advice, their assistance on how we can make better games. However, as game developers, I believe that it is essential, very important, that we listen to other individuals' perspectives and the reason they give. Why? Because this might help our own games. So that's at the heart of what we'll be discussing today, is what are some of the pushbacks that the What is Tabletop team had about this hot take, and how can we use the discussion between to make better games ourselves.
All right, I want you to give your thoughts on it.
So Peter and I did an entire video talking about this. Mm-hmm. How complex should your main resolution mechanic be? And here's the thing. Your main resolution mechanic, if it gets too complex, aka what this person's saying, more fun, people are not going to want to play it.
Okay, so there is a significant misunderstanding here right off the bat. It seems that the What is Tabletop team had thought we were discussing the matter of complexity, but rather the thing in question was the foundational mechanics of a game. So not how complex a game could get, but more along the lines of how deep the game will go, as we'll discuss later. Now, in this discussion, we're going to be using a stronger leaning on quotes made by other designers. Notice this quote from Adam Miller, the architect of games, speaking on game design. He had said that simple, versatile systems can often be more strategically engaging than very complex ones. This is an ideology that I very much so agree with. As game designers, we should be in the practice of trying to do as much as we can with as little as we can have. Taking a simple system and turning it into a full blossoming game is not something that's easy to do, but it's an essential skill to learn if we are to make more fun games, which really was the challenge at hand, how we can make more fun games, not questioning how fun the existing games really are, not calling them bad by any means, but rather saying that we can do better. So a question that we as game designers should be asking as we're considering this topic is, how does my core resolution mechanic in the game I'm designing feel to use? Let's talk about game feel.
Because you're already in a role-playing game, playing a character, and so you're thinking about all the decisions of that. The second you have to step back and acknowledge I am playing a game. Now we have to play a hand of poker.
Yeah, it ruins immersion.
So, Charles, I understand where you were coming from with this, and honestly, I relate a lot to the things that you've said in the past about game design. But this is a spot where I have to disagree with you. The example that you gave, I see where you're coming from regarding how, for example, taking a second to pull back from being in the narrative to play a hand of poker, how that could ruin immersion. But I think that it goes back to the point of how the game mechanic is used. Like, what circumstance is it being put in? A quote that kind of gets better to the point of what I'm saying, something that Timothy Kane, one of the former developers on the Fallout series, had said. As far as using mechanics to support storytelling, it just makes sense. I mean, every tabletop game I've ever played, the mechanics exist there so that the DM can make up certain stories. The game mechanics, they should support the narrative, not take away from the immersion. Really, on that note, I see how you could say that it could ruin immersion if those mechanics are poorly implemented. But those mechanics should not be being implemented in a way that doesn't line with the themes of the game. At the same time, if the mechanic implemented is neutral or not fun in itself and is just trying to get out of the way, then that underlying layer does nothing to benefit the game itself, really. It makes it a disengagement. One way that this was put was by Adam Miller, architect of games, again quoting him here. He had said that if the underlying gameplay isn't fun, you'll just get bored of the different mechanical gimmicks on display, no matter how creative they are. Similarly, Mark Brown from GMTK, Game Master's Toolkit, had said that game feel mostly occurs on the fundamental action of the game. It governs second-to-second gameplay and is felt in the very undercurrent of the game. And this is something that he had stated going on 12 years ago now. Wow. But it raises a good question for us as game designers. What does the undercurrent of my game feel like? Do I choose or build mechanics that add to game feel? Or do my mechanics lack emotional or thematic investment? If they do, we may want to consider how can we bolster our game's mechanics.
And here's the thing. You can say all you want that just rolling one die is not fun, but I have seen too many times people rolling nat 20s and losing their gosh darn mind.
Okay, so I think that this is another point that requires some clarification. So the object in question is not RPGs that use one dice roll mechanics, but rather the dice mechanics themselves. Mark Brown from Game Maker's Toolkit had said in the same video quoted earlier, a good way for us to test this is to think about how does our game feel even when you strip out the points, the story, the graphics, the music, and the very clever level design. Even without all those trappings, is your game still fun to interact with? You see, this can be applied, even though he was talking directly about video games, this same principle can be applied very well to tabletop role-playing games. If you take out the progression, if you take out the narrative, if you take out the artwork in the book, if you take out the soundtrack the game master plays at the table, if you take out the adventures that are designed to support the game, and all you've got is that core dice mechanic, is the game still fun? Is it fun on its most fundamental level, which truthfully is the resolution mechanic? You take out the resolution mechanic, and that's really the whole game out of the play. Whether that's rolling a die or some kind of at-table agreement, or the use of cards, the resolution mechanic really is what pushes storytelling from just being a group activity to being a group game. Mark Brown said regarding the things that are layered on top, that this can be considered like juice. That's all about doubling down on whatever our game's core is about. The point is not that games with basic dice rolling are bad, but rather that we can get even better games if we test our game's enjoyment at the potential of the resolution mechanics level. So let's talk about those different layers to the game's design.
Yeah, no, rolling one die can be very fun. There are lots of games out there that your resolution mechanic doesn't need to be super complex for it to be fun.
Okay, so we've harped on the miscommunication, misunderstanding with complexity versus depth a good bit. So I won't harp on that really anymore. But this statement that's been made here does raise an important question. Does your game embrace mechanical depth and simplicity? Notice this quote from Architect of Games. A lot of the time, players and developers alike tend to see complex and challenging styles of play to be inherently exclusionary, meaning they will cut out a certain group of players. This does not always have to be the case. By designing deep games that can be engaged with on a variety of levels, we can get as many people as possible to have these games, to have these experiences without compromising the complexity or challenge that makes them enjoyable for more hardcore audiences. You see, a well-designed resolution mechanic doesn't have to be complex to be deep. A well-designed resolution mechanic doesn't have to be mathematically challenging to be challenging in a more positive way, even for those who struggle with mathematics. This is something I think is key to game design. And really, all game designers should ask, how can I build depth and challenge into my games for those who are more advanced players without taking away anything from players who have more difficulty grasping even basic or simple mechanics? Really, this is something that got me personally into game design. When I first learned about tabletop role-playing games, I thought it would be way too much of a challenge for me because I struggle with reading. I thought it would be way too much of a challenge for me to learn an entire game book, so I decided that I'd make my own resolution mechanics. And along with doing that process of making my own resolution mechanics, I learned a lot about the importance of knowing your game's floor and its ceiling. That is, knowing what is the lowest point of entry that your game allows and what is the highest level that it can be used at. When you understand your game's floor and ceiling, you can see exactly who your game is built for. And by being able to push those boundaries as far apart from each other as you can build a pretty awesome game.
If you're constantly adding modifiers or stacking things and then having to do all these extra steps just to resolve something, that's not a resolution mechanic, that's an essay.
Okay, so this is a statement that I really agree with. The secondary layer of game mechanics should be able to do a lot with a little. Adam Miller, who we quoted earlier, Architect of Games, had said before that deep games with a lot of layers and a lot of potential scope for different ways to interact with their mechanics are better. So deep games, how can we make those to have a lot of layers without them all being stacked on at the same time? Well, a question we could ask is, how many secondary mechanics does the game that I'm making ask GMs or players to juggle in a single resolution? So, for example, your player wants to climb a wall. Well, of course, they've got their core dice rolling mechanic, however that takes, but then the modifiers, the feats, how many of those things do they reasonably have to add on to have a chance at succeeding? Now, you may go the route of having more challenging things require more of those pieces, therefore, in a sense, giving a skill lock to your game. Me personally, it's not my style of approach, but it is an option. Or you could go the route of having just those two layers interact with each other in such a way to where you can get a lot of variety of results without having to put all these extra tacked on pieces. So again, a question for game developers to ask themselves is, how many secondary mechanics are needed for my core resolution system?
And if you've noticed, the games that do that kind of crunchy stuff work best on a VTT where all of the math is done instantaneous.
Correct.
Okay, this is an area that brings up a hot take for another day here in the pond. There's only so much heat we can take here in the pond, especially since it's located in a pretty hot part of the United States right now, as is. But I'm of the opinion that if a tabletop, or even a board game's mechanics for that matter, require a virtual tool to operate, the mechanics need a little bit more refinement. This goes back to a quote made by Architect of Games, that truly deep games allow players to unlock new strategies and complexities from within the same set of mechanics that they've been using the whole time. It goes back to the question before, how much does my game do without little? The level of strategy possible in just two interlocking mechanics can tell a designer a lot about where their game can improve.
No one likes having to wait to resolve an issue.
Now, this is a statement that I really question. So when you think about it, aren't TTRPGs about the stories that we get from moments of resolution? I mean, why are we trying to rush through them? Another quote from that same source, the architect of games, said, "A gameplay loop is a series of repeated actions or emotional states that serve as a foundation for everything you do in the game." If a player, or for that matter, a GM, doesn't enjoy the foundational resolution mechanic, realistically, they'll be more likely to emotionally detach from the mechanics and possibly even see them as a burden to the game's fun. I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that Frank and Charles have encountered before. But it goes back to the challenge that I posed to us as designers. Can we, as designers, make more emotionally engaging mechanics? I'd love to see your efforts to do so talked about in the comments below.
Now, I am working on a game where I'm seeing, can you have a complicated resolution mechanic if all the other choices are simple to make? And I'm seeing if that's the case, and it's quite possible. It might not be. If more of the new RPGs coming out have taught me anything, is that things that I thought weren't possible are possible. So,
okay, Frank, I think that you may be looking in the wrong direction for inspiration on what you're building. Yeah, we can learn a lot from games that are coming up, but also there are games that already exist like this in other mediums. Timothy Kane, who I frequently quote, I believe I quoted him earlier, had said that that's one of the things that he used in the game Arcanum that he developed a while back. Actually, a good while back. He had said regarding it that that's what the meter mechanic in Arcanum was there for, to remind you, the player, that that's what this world was about. So the player had this constantly coming at them through the gameplay mechanics. And quoting again, Timothy Kane, I think this is a good thing. I think better games do this. If you don't do this, then you run the risk of causing ludonarrative dissonance. Ludonarrative dissonance being basically the game theory that there's a sense of separation between what the mechanics are telling you to do and what the narrative says you should be doing. As designers, we benefit greatly if we are willing to draw mechanical inspiration from other mediums. For example, two games that I'm working on right now, one actually uses a mechanic based off of the Blackjack 21 card game. But instead of with a card, it's with dice. In simple, there's different stances that a player can have their character take, and depending on what stance you're in, that says what dice you're rolling. And you can roll those up to 3 times, and the goal is to just not go over 20. Very simple, very straightforward, but very fun. And it goes along with the themes of the game. Similar with another game I'm making about undercover agents that's based off of the card game Flip 7, where you roll a die up to the amount of times that your skill allows. And when you hit that amount of times, then you've critically succeeded. And at any time, you can choose to stop and just take a failure. But if at any point you roll 2 of the same number, then you've critically failed. It's incredibly simple, but it's very fun to engage with. And those are games that existed for years before. They're just in other mediums. If we as game designers are willing to look outside of the TTRPG space to draw mechanical inspiration, similar to how we do for narrative inspiration, we really can benefit the hobby a lot and make more engaging games.
I would be hesitant to say you need to have a interesting game associated with it, because I think people can still find fun in the midst of all of that anyway.
Okay, so I found this very interesting. Someone actually had made a similar response to my original hot take. Let me see if I can get it here. Okay, so they had said, fun is subjective to the person. And then someone had responded jokingly to them, no, he's definitely right. And then in parentheses, this is a half joke. Yes, fun is obviously subjective. Okay, so the statement being made that fun is subjective or potentially not something that we can measure. Really, this isn't a beneficial way for game designers or players of games to think. If we think of fun as some ethereal, esoteric, intangible thing, then we can't get a real sense of where we get joy from. And studies have shown that fun is something measurable. But I don't think that it's completely measurable either. Instead of thinking of fun as being either objective, hardline, hard-coded, or being completely free-flowing, subjective, we can really think of subjectivity and objectivity more as a gradient, with different aspects of a game having more subjectivity of fun and other aspects having less subjectivity of fun. And by doing this, we really can control how we approach games, not only with tabletop role-playing games, but with video games, board games, really across the board. Last time I'm going to quote him, I promise. Architect of Games, on this same subject, had said that by trying to understand how games and their mechanics work, not only can we better approach the titles we love, but we can also learn to make informed decisions about which games we play and why. If we take it into our own hands to be informed gamers and informed game designers, then we can break through a lot of the chains that have held back game design, and look to examples already existing of how other designers have made more fun games by taking in the fun that they've experienced, processing it, trying to understand it, and building on that. You as a game designer have the ability to do this too. So don't give up. Keep working hard to make better games. Thank you again to Frank and Charles and all those that work with them at the What is Tabletop crew. Feel free to check out their Discord, check out their YouTube channel. A lot of great stuff happening over there. We look forward to the next time we're able to make a video. It might be a while. The summer tends to get pretty busy for me, but we'll see. We'll see what the next few weeks bring. See if I'm able to get out back to our regular scheduled activities. A huge thanks to all those who watch the videos, giving it a thumbs up and a like, and commenting down below. We love to hear any of your thoughts on game design. What are your opinions on mechanics being more engaging? Do you prefer them stay streamlined? Do you think that it's really possible for us to get some of those things implemented in other mediums into TTRPG space? Let us know, comments below. Also, you'll find down there the references to all the videos where I got the many quotes that I used today from. Please check out their channels as well. Give them thumbs up and a like. Fair warning with some content warning. Some of their videos do use footage from more mature games and other things. Just fair content warning. And we look forward to the next time. Again, comments below, thumbs up, like, and we'll see you the next time in the pond. Until then, stay witty.